welcome to Experiencing Consciousness. My name is Dyba.
And I'm Dr. Kathryn Rossi. We're happy you're here.
I got another question for you, by the way, and it's a very brief one. It's a fresh one, and it goes: what do you think would be the future of psychotherapy?
Oh, thank you for asking such a wonderful question. I'll tell you why. That I'm in the process with 4 other people in writing a chapter for an upcoming book, the International Handbook for Clinical Hypnosis. And the last chapter is Hypnosis Horizons. And so it's like, what's about hypnosis for the future? So I have been just in intellectual heaven looking at all of this stuff about, what I think is important. And hopefully you're going to love it. Now, I only speak for myself. I don't speak for the other 4 authors on this. But what we need in hypnosis is an ability to do more research. Now, the research can come from the individual clinicians. And that I want to be able to design something where the individual clinician can have a protocol and with some biomarkers, and that the statistics that are done on are like a Bayesian based statistic, which is the person themselves, that individual themselves is their baseline, and their treatment is what their treatment is, and then the results are what their results are, so that it's across an individual. And I think that if we can get a lot of these cases, then so you have 300 individuals that go through whatever the process is, then we can look at it across people. But as clinicians, we want to know if what we're doing is working. So there's different ways of moving that forward. And in science, it has to be something you can hold in your hand, right? It's not like a single case. It has to be something that is solid. And so over the years, there's certain biomarkers for hypnosis. And one of them is there really is an electronic signature for therapeutic hypnosis, particularly for catatonia. And so when you become catatonic, as most everybody does within experiencing hypnosis, you become very quiet. Your body is very quiet. This is abundantly clear if you're doing any sessions online. When all of a sudden the person is so still, well, they're in trance because they're so still. But there's, it was Ravitz who actually a long time ago in 1950 wrote a paper for Science magazine on the electrodynamics underlying therapeutic hypnosis. And Jan and I also wrote a paper on this, but that there can be, it's almost like in the realms of biofeedback. But I think that if we can add this from time to time in our practices, which is like a simple thing, of you got a computer, a screen, a little machine that measures, that the client can even see what's happening, so you can literally see the 4-stage creative process that's going on with these electrodynamics. And the dream that Ernie and I had when we founded the field of psychosocial genomics, which is that it's this top-down approach. It's that your mind is going to affect your body, and your mind is going to turn on or turn off certain genes that lead to a cascade, hopefully of greater health. And so we did research studies in this, and we found it to be true that that we don't have the complete signature of what happens in hypnosis, but there is a direction for it. And our dream was that there could be a simple saliva test that, so person, does a saliva test and you find out what is their gene expression before the session, what is their gene expression after the session, what is their gene expression 24 hours later. And we found that there was oodles of changes that happened right after a session and even more changes that happened 24 hours later. So as we able to bring hypnosis into the hard sciences, like I say, the things you can hold in your hand, I think that we'll be able to demonstrate to people that we have something really unique and really valuable that demonstrates genuine change. And then if you really want to take it the step further, where I'm taking it today is this past week, it's the beginning of October 2020, and the Nobel Prizes are awarded in October. And the Nobel Prize in Chemistry went to 3 people, 2 in California and 1 in Copenhagen, on what they call, click theory. It's where they figured out how to create molecules, like putting together a Lego set, to be able to be to diagnose or to treat, certain serious illnesses. Now, I already know what I'm going to say, don't you? It's like, how can we harness that in therapy without using the chemicals? How can we use this with the top-down approach to be able to demonstrate that the body is naturally going to go into what they call the click therapy? And haven't worked out how the heck to do it, but that's certainly where my mind is going this week. What do you think about that, Jan?
That's a cool ambition. I mean, it when you were talking about that my mind actually went into that direction. I was starting to fantasize, especially that I am actually very fond of fantasy books and science fiction. So I started to go way, way into the galaxy, of thinking and starting to kind of designing in my head all those machines and stuff, and thinking to myself, actually, yeah, how we can utilize that in therapy and stuff.
And what if that comes out of Poland? What if it turns out? Wouldn't that be awesome? You guys are like brilliant over there, and you do think outside of the box. And so it's like, why not? How can we make this so and make people's lives better?
Well, that's also a matter of future.
Future is now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's that in the past that it was like in the future, but the kinds of things that are happening, it's incredibly exciting. It's just a question of, stepping off the wagon train and onto the rocket.
Well, and it's also a question of how to do it.
Well, but that's something that's going to come to people with their thoughts that are out in the cosmos. It's going to come to people. It's like, I had a dream last night about that, if you open up to you go from it's possible to it's probable, that changes the entire trajectory. But can you imagine? Just imagine this. If hypnosis and psychotherapy can join in with this scientific revolution and hold hands and be a part, where it's not a competition. It's that, there's what's the saying, how many ways can you get to Rome? That what if there could be ways that the chemical combination is what really works for this particular condition. And so we want you to take this injection. We want you to take this pill because we know that the chance of you having resolution physically for this is really good. What if it turns out that there's elements that psychologically is the better way? Now, I'm into zero competition. I don't need to be right about anything, but I love the idea of just plain being included. So I'm curious about your dreams tonight, Jan.
Well, I'll be more than happy to be a part of that. I would not say project of that. Something bigger than a project, right?
Well, yeah,
Of
I
that
mean,
movement. Let's call it a movement.
in calling it a movement, and here's all of us that have this like amazing background in psychology, and so I'm just calling that the top down. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of research dollars for your mind is turning on what needs to be turned on for healing. But if we can work in conjunction with the bottoms up people, which is you affect the body, which is then going to affect the mind. If we can have a partnership, I mean, wow, what good, what extraordinary good can come from that. It's limitless.
I agree. Cool things come out of cooperations.
Absolutely. And that's what we can model for people is, because we're living in this strange time in the history of humankind where there's so much competition. There's so much I'm right, you're wrong going on. And if I can do anything to move that needle to let's cooperate. The greatest thing my mother ever taught me, and she taught me this when I was a teenager. It took me about 10, 15 years to integrate it. But she said to me, Kathryn, you have to figure out how to make everybody right. And I thought she was out of her mind because somebody had to be right, somebody had to be wrong, somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. You get this black and white thinking. And it took me about 10, 15 years. And I thought, yeah, actually, she's right. Because when you're listening to somebody without prejudgment, then you're going to learn. And the way that you make everybody right is you actually listen to them. You might not personally agree, but you can really listen. And that stranger things have happened than one changing their mind after they've got a series of information.
Again, openness, right? And
yes. Open mind, honesty, curiosity, zest for life. It all dovetails with it. And clients are really, that's what they want too. That sometimes they have these limitations, and it's why they need us to be able to see some things that they're not seeing in themselves. That and that opens up those possibilities for good relationships, for great creativity. That because another question to ask is, well, why are you a therapist? Like what is it about being a therapist that you really love, and what got you in it? What keeps you in it? It's like and these are continuous questions that can only be answered individually. So you accidentally asked me a question I'm on fire on, it's what's the future of hypnosis. So maybe I have to apologize.
And psychotherapy.
And psychotherapy, so I mean, I almost have to apologize for this sort of enthusiasm and zeal, but it's October. It's the Nobel Prizes are coming out. I get excited every year.
Yeah, we're gonna be probably discussing that more in private, right? being excited about who got it, and sometimes not so much excited about who gets it.
Well,
You
you
know?
know, I mean, they left Ernie out, and so they obviously missed somebody really
Yeah,
important along.
exactly.
You know, I mean, I hope one day that the psychosocial genomics gets a Nobel Prize.
Yeah,
I really
well,
do.
it's actually
Because
emerging, right? I mean, there's still not a lot of research on the subject, but those that are there are very interesting.
you know, it's very interesting. And so for those people that aren't familiar with it, you know, you're born with a genome. You know, so you've got 23,000 genes in every cell of your body. And each one of those genes can do up to 100 different things. Oh my God, that's more stars than there are in the sky in every single cell of your body. So to say that we have choice points, that we don't have to respond the same way every time. We have so many choice points. The question is about accessing it and about understanding about the possibilities of that. And in our initial research, it was really small pilot study, and this is the easiest one to discuss because it's so simple. So what happened is stem cells got turned on, and that was so that means it's going to make new tissues in your body and whatever. You know, it's going to make a new neuron. It's going to make, you know, a new heart cell. It's going to make, you know, anything like that. So, but it's an active physical process that got turned on with the therapy. And the other things that got turned on was anti-inflammatories and oh gosh, I'm spacing out. The third one, anti-inflammatories, and well, it'll come to me in a second. So, but that in our study, we did real therapy, and the stem cells got turned on. In another study that was done, they had a much simpler research design. And in that research design, they had people repeat the number 1 over and over again. 1, 1, 1, 1. And what they found is that stem cells actually were not turned on. They found the other 2 elements were turned on, but not stem cells. And so the difference between what we did and what they did is we did real therapy. You know, that and this is part of the challenge of research, is that, in my opinion, it's got to be real therapy. It can't just be
Yeah.
this experimental thing. So
Now I'm trying to think what was the third element, because I remember that's the 2008 pilot study, right?
right, right. I just, what can I say? I'm human. You know, but it's the anti-inflammatory. Anyway, you know, it all of a sudden it'll spontaneously come, and then we'll just have to add it.
Yeah. We
But just to say that this top-down thing, this ability for us to affect how our genes express themselves, because there's those like firm genes, but then there's the gene expression of what happens, and how we live, second to second, hour to hour, day to day, year to year, is there's different genes that express themselves. And obviously the easiest way to understand it is a woman's menstrual cycle. They get signals, for ovulation. They get signals, throughout the entire cycle. And any woman or any man who's ever loved any woman, or anyone who's ever loved any woman that's going through this gene cascade that happens each month, they know palpably, oh yeah, there's a difference with her. Well, imagine that as it goes even further towards natural health and healing. of, how the possibilities of cancers being metabolized, for instance, instead of growing into greater tumors. It goes on and on. But this nature that makes us who we are is so extraordinary. And just to think about living your life with an infinite number of choice points. So why go to the same old, same old? Why not open up to new possibilities?
We are still answering the question about the future of psychotherapy, right? It's
Yes, Jan, I'm going on and on. How do you see it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm for now. Just so inspired by all that you said. The only thing I would add to it, I've heard once on one of the seminars I attended at the Beck's Institute, someone asked that to Aaron Beck, and he had another one more important thing. I think that it was actually said here also, but that what he said, and that I would quote that because I don't know if I agree with that, but that's an interesting kind of direction also, is that he said, as far as I remember, that in his opinion, I mean, that in his opinion, in the future there will not be approaches to therapy, because we're probably gonna know what works best for different kind of problems or something like that, and that there's gonna be solutions, or like that the psychotherapy is gonna be more specialized towards different problems, or areas, I would say, then divided into ways of looking at people. So I don't know if that's going to be the way, but
It would be wonderful if it was. I mean, I have not noted that that has come to pass. And part of that is that it's natural to be attached to things, and it's not easy to be fluid. And so many people learn a particular technique or a particular school, and they resonate with it so much they really think that it applies to everybody. And so there's similar techniques or a combination of techniques. And greater it would be if we had the openness to be able to have our clients, it's like, all right, listen, I want you to go experience this technique. This person's really brilliant at it. I'd really like for you to experience that. I mean, if we had almost this ability to be free and open with different therapists working with our clients. But of course, in the practical world, like, there's more reasons than not that a client would just stay with one therapist. But to me, in an open world, there would be this greater possibility. So in this respect, I think, Aaron Beck is right. And I think that in that when he said it, I think he was, that was his dream.
And plus, that's another vision. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just highlighting that it's my quote, and maybe my memory is not working properly, but I remember he said it something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I liked him very much. He lived to be 100. I think it was just
Yeah,
last year that he
isn't
died.
that cool?
I mean, it's really, and I mean, and he was always animated and great. And there were things that I just so agreed with him on, and then other things I so disagreed with him on. And that where I disagreed with him is he really thought that the cognition came first and everything else came after that. And my way of thinking is, your cognition is the last thing to come. So he in when he developed his theories, he was working with the seriously mentally ill, people who were psychotic and hallucinating. And I realized, well, when you're working with this particular population, boy, howdy, you better start with the cognition and get that straight, because otherwise it's too chaotic. So, so he worked with the seriously mentally ill when he developed his theories. I've been really fortunate to work with, people like you and me almost my entire career. I did work with seriously mentally ill, for 5 years, at the Veterans Administration and UCLA in research. And so I was like really familiar with that. But my practice is more often than not, the people that come in are psychotherapists that need to have a psychotherapist that they can work with, that they can really, trust. And so I'm working with people that, for lack of a better way to put it, like are normal, that they're not mentally ill. They just have problems and concerns, but it's not, in the category of mentally ill. And under those circumstances, all kinds of things happen, and then the thought comes. So there's room for all of us. There's room for, and Aaron Beck felt very strongly about the fact that the cognition was the first.
Yeah, that's true.
Very strongly. And good on him. Like that was his conviction. And I can love him to pieces and not quite agree with that for my life.
Yes, well, I like looking at it from the circular perspective. I see it always in a circle. Like there's a cognition, emotion, action. Everything is in a circle, and whatever you alter, it probably one piece of the puzzle alters a bit all the rest. And the main thing is to actually notice that and facilitate that on different levels. And
according to the client, according to the time, person, place, and thing, is that it's constantly shifting. There is no one right way that works all the time for everybody. That's why we're individuals.
This was another episode of our Experiencing Consciousness podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jan. You're the best. Be well, be happy, celebrate life.